Give me 6 to 8 minutes on this one, please. Oh, okay. Women's conference or something like that.
Well, I'm going to need
I would have to look it up.
Welcome to our special Toastmasters meeting here on the grounds of the University of Great Falls. Take a deep breath. Smell the aroma of freshly cut grass as it permeates the air. We're glad you came today. It's exciting to be here. This is the time of our 8 o'clock class, and our Toastmaster today is in that 8 o'clock class, and I'm about to introduce her. Our Toastmaster is Samantha Strable. She's an English major here at the University of Great Falls and has previously had some experience with Toastmasters. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome the Toastmaster of the day, Samantha Strable.
Welcome, fellow Toastmasters and honored guests. My name is Samantha Strable, and I am your Toastmaster for today. Today our theme is continuous improvement, which I think is a perfect theme considering this is what Toastmasters and public speaking is really all about. I would now like to call on Randy Knowles for the invocation and pledge, and if you would also read the mission of a Toastmasters Club, please.
Please rise.
Most heavenly and gracious Father, thank you for this time of year so we can watch all your miracles grow, and include in that us. Help us to grow, to be better communicators, to make a better world. In your Son's name we pray, amen.
Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
God bless Toastmasters.
And help me read the mission of the Toastmasters Club. You can be seated, that's fine. The mission of the Toastmasters Club is to provide a supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. Hoo-ah!
Thank you. Our WAG master for today is Pat Terry. Pat, would you please give us the word for the meeting?
Yes. The word of the day that I've chosen is discipline. Now that has several meanings, and are we doing self-introductions?
Yes.
Okay. You can use discipline in any form that you wish, but the description I've got is training that develops self-control, character, orderliness, and efficiency. Discipline.
Could you also explain the use of the bell at this time?
Yes, the bill. My duties. My duties as word knock counter, and the word I've given, the A stands for knock counter, the G is grammarian. I'm to listen for ahs and ums and pauses during the meeting today. And for the experienced Toastmasters, if I hear ahs and ums, I'm going to do this on the first time. Only the first time, because that'll get a little old after a while, especially if Randy speaks. And also as grammarian, I'm listening for uses of the English language. I'm better at listening to the good uses of the English language than I am to the bad English language. That's my duties.
Thank you. Now, if we could all introduce ourselves and try to use the word discipline in it, and we'll start on this side of the room.
Good morning, fellow Toastmasters and guests. My name is Matt Donnelly, and it's kind of an interesting transition, a little change of pace, being nice outside in this weather, and I hope that some Toastmaster meetings will be like this. I'm really enjoying this now.
Morning, fellow Toastmasters and guests. My name's Randy Knowles, and I'm not probably a very disciplined person. I'm pretty much a free spirit.
There's a spider on you.
Oh, it's okay. And so that's probably the reason I've been self-employed for 35 years is my failure to accept discipline from someone that thinks they're in charge.
Good morning, fellow Toastmasters and guests. I'm Mary Kraft. I'm a retired bank employee. I'm pleased to belong to Speakeasy Toastmaster, and they already know if I don't have discipline now, I'll never have it. But they're very kind to me. Good morning,
Toastmasters. Dr. Briner invited me to come today. My name is Kay Sealstead, and I work with our TRIO program here at the University of Great Falls. And I've been trying to discipline myself to ride my bike to work in the summer. But this morning I was running late, so I drove. So as you can see, I'm not disciplined very well.
Hello, fellow Toastmasters and most honored guests. My name is Jane Rogers. I don't have a job right now, and that's okay because I'm trying to get into retirement, and I think I will like that as my next career. Discipline, now that I'm not having to get up, go to work at 8 o'clock or whatever time, I have to be disciplined enough to at least get up and do something creative, which usually happens because my husband's there, and he's always got something for me to do. So it's not honeydews at my house, it's Jane Dews.
Good morning, I'm Sydney Froberg. I'm an accounting student here at the University of Great Falls, and I'm also a member of Speakeasy Toastmasters. And one thing I've definitely learned as a member of Toastmasters is it takes a lot of discipline to wake up at 5:30 in the morning.
I agree with that. Good morning, fellow Toastmasters and our honored guests. My name is David Odie. I'm self-employed. I've been having to practice a lot of discipline these past couple of weeks because I'm getting ready to go off to a certification training with SkillPath next week. You'll hear more about that because that's the subject of the speech I'll be giving. And I have to prepare 8 presentations in 4 days next week. And preparing all of those is really taxing my discipline.
Good morning, Toastmasters and honored guests. My name is Tracy Howe. By day, I work at Paris Gibson Square Museum of Art. I invite you all to come and see us. We're so welcoming to the public that we do not charge admission. I joined the Rivers View Toastmasters because even though I work in the art field, I love an organized agenda. And the organized agenda that is so disciplined is what drew me back to our club.
Good morning, Toastmasters and honored guest. My name is Tracy Tomich. I work at Lumberyard Supply. I'm one of the jokesters today. And as a comic, I make fun of discipline. I have absolutely no use for discipline. That's why I make fun of it.
Good morning, Toastmasters and guests. My name is Kieran Haslam. I work for the City of Great Falls. And I learned from being made to write sentences in the 4th grade that I do not like being disciplined. On the other hand, as I've grown up, I do appreciate the benefits of self-discipline.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Pat Terry. I retired from the FAA about 10 years ago. When I was in high school, I was not college material because I just was not disciplined enough. In fact, some would say I wasn't high school material when I was in high school. But it all worked out. Time in the service and then college, it all worked out.
Good morning, fellow Toastmasters and welcome guests. I'm Craig Larkham, retired after 27 years of military career. And if you did not internally have discipline, they were most gracious and willing to supply it for you.
Good morning, Toastmasters and guests. I'm Tim Heasel. I'm a producer for Farmers Insurance. It takes a lot of discipline to make cold calls to try to convince people or help people understand that they need insurance.
Morning, fellow Toastmasters, guest Corky Grove, retired from the City of Great Falls with Speakeasy Toastmasters. My discipline outside the home started in about 2nd grade when I got 2 whacks for skipping lunch. Continued all the way through my life. I'm not really sure that I have fully accomplished a regiment of discipline yet.
Good morning, my name is Nick Dulles, and it took some discipline getting here this morning, but I think if you want to be successful in life, you have to have a lot of discipline, whatever you're trying to do.
I'm Cheryl Knowles. I'm retired for 36 years with the Montana State University Extension Service, and then a second post-retirement 2-year stint with the Family Human Development Specialist for Montana State University Extension. And I've spent the last 45 years trying to discipline my husband, Randy, but as you can see, I guess I haven't been very effective.
I'm Kathy Nyman Went, and along with Kay, I work in the TRIO program here at the university in Sullivan Hall. It takes a lot of discipline for me to get out of bed every morning.
And I'm Rich Briner, and when I graduated from college, I was in the 1/3 of the class that made the upper 2/3 possible. I lacked discipline, and so when I went on to try to go to graduate school, there were some people who raised their eyebrows and thought, he ain't gonna make it. But discipline is really what got me through. It certainly wasn't brains, and you can confirm that by asking my wife, Janet.
I am now pleased to introduce the general evaluator for this meeting, Rich Briner. If you would please explain your duties and introduce your helpers.
Our team of evaluators, you've met a couple of them already. Pat Terry is in charge of word usage and dinging the bell. Craig Larkham is going to evaluate our first speaker. We have a timer back there, Sydney Froberg. She will be keeping us on time. That is part of the discipline of speaking, to be able to do a good speech to fit the topic at the time at your disposal. And we'll be coming back later to evaluate the entire meeting. So far we're doing really well. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
I would now like to introduce our joke masters for today, Mary Kraft and Tracy Tomic. Mary, if you would start us with your joke today.
I'd be happy to. A man woke up in the hospital after a serious accident. He said, Doctor, I can't feel my legs. The doctor replied, no wonder you can't feel your legs. Cut off your arms. And if that isn't bad enough, I have another one, if you would like to hear it. A group of chess players checked into a hotel, and they were standing in the lobby discussing all their victories, how many times they had won. This went on for an hour. Pretty soon the manager came out and said, knock it off. They could not understand why. So they asked him, why? And he said, move on, because I can't stand chestnuts boasting in an open foyer.
Don't worry, Rich. It's clean. I do have some discipline. Every night, Frank would go down to the liquor store, get a six-pack, and bring it home and drink it while he watched TV. One night, as he finished his last beer, the doorbell rang. He stumbled to the door and found a 6-foot cockroach standing there. The bug grabbed him by the collar and threw him across the room, then left. The next night, after he finished his 4th beer, the doorbell rang. He walked slowly to the door and found the same 6-foot bug standing there. The bug punched him in the stomach and left. The next night, after he finished his 1st beer, the doorbell rang again. The same 6-foot cockroach was standing there. This time he was poked in the eye and punched in the stomach, then the bug left. The 4th night, Frank didn't drink at all. The doorbell rang and the cockroach was standing there. The bug poked him in the eye, punched him in the stomach, and threw him across the room. The following day, Frank went to see his doctor. He explained the events of the preceding night. Doctor, what can I do? He said. Not much, the doctor replied. There's just a nasty bug going around.
Our timer for today is Sydney Froberg. If you would please explain the timing of table topics.
As the timer for today, it is my job to record the table topics time as well as the speaker. And what I'm going to do is when you have reached the adequate time limit to be qualified, I'll turn on the green light. When you're in the middle, I'll turn on the orange light, and when you have just a couple seconds left, I'll turn on the red light. Thank you.
Good job.
Today our table topics master, who has been with Toastmasters since he graduated from the School of Hard Knocks, aka UGF, will ask you all sorts of neat yet interesting questions. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Matt Dunn.
I must say it takes a lot of discipline to ask these wonderful questions. So I feel disciplined already. Let's get ready for some real discipline with table topics. First question. What does continuous improvement mean to you? Tim.
Continuous improvement means to me always doing your best. Trying to achieve goals that you set for yourself. Have that discipline to focus on it. For instance, I set a goal out to run a marathon. I spent 4 months training for that. And after that, I developed the discipline to do an Ironman, which took a lot of discipline. Training 10, 15 hours a week, which is a lot. And being a good father requires discipline, and also disciplining your children so that they become good citizens. Self-discipline is important on who you are and being that person that you want to be. Being faithful, a good friend, a good husband, and a good pal. Something I found within the Toastmasters group is a lot of friends that are willing to accept you as you are. Self-discipline took a lot for me to get here today. All right. So that took some discipline to get up here.
We have many and varied aspects in our lives that constantly need improvement. What is the most important aspect of your life that you want to improve on continuously? Tracy Halk.
Thank you, Matt. There are many aspects, I think, in all of our lives that we would all need to sit down and consider doing some self-improvement over time. It would take discipline. Probably the hardest thing for me would to have the discipline to identify what that trait was about me that I didn't like, and then set up some type of continuous improvement process. For me, I overbook myself all the time. That's the one thing I constantly have to have some retrospect on. Look at my calendar. Somebody said yesterday in our Toastmasters, always take the time if somebody offers you the stage time and then figure it out later. And then I thought to myself, that's all really a good idea until you go back and you look at your calendar and you wonder if there is enough time to sleep and do laundry and spend time with your children and put in a full day's worth of work, and how do you do that? But I'm committed to it. Most recently, as Matt knows, I put my hat in the ring for city commissioner. And so my biggest self-improvement will be making sure that I give time to myself before I give time to others.
I can definitely sympathize with that, especially in my line of work of working in public radio and also working at the public library as well. That takes a lot of discipline, especially when sleep is somewhat on the horizon. Next question. In the professional arena, employees are often required to engage in continuous improvement in their respective profession. who do you think is responsible for that improvement, the employee or the employer? Kieran Haslam.
Thank you very much, Matt. And actually, that addresses one of my own personal needs for self-improvement, and that is that we all have a responsibility, not only to ourselves, but to the people around us, to assume leadership when leadership is called for. And leadership is something that not only do we want to have from our employers or from our bosses and leaders, but we also need to find it ourselves. And as an employee, and every person at some stage in their life is an employee. Even the President of the United States is an employee of the entire nation. And that employee must assume leadership throughout his day-to-day workings. And one of the hardest things I think we can all do is we can all at times say, well, they should have done this. They should have assumed responsibility here, or they should have done something there. And it's very difficult at those times to look and say, no, wait a second, what did I do to frame that situation? And what could I be doing to make the situation better? And if we can answer that question, and if we can find a solution that we can achieve without attributing responsibility to somebody else, then we realize the true benefits of being an employee, a servant, or a leader.
I'll hand it over now to our Toastmaster. It's a shame there's no more questions left.
Those are great, everyone. May I have our timer please give us the times for each of the table topics along with the name of the speaker?
The speakers today, Tim spoke on continuous improvement for 1 minute and 39 seconds. Tracy spoke on important life aspects for improvement for 1 minute and 11 seconds. And Curran spoke for who's responsible for this for 1 minute and 15 seconds.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to invite you all to place your votes for the best table topic speaker and then pass your vote to our Sergeant at Arms today, Dr. Rich. Never mind, currently we're putting them at the middle of the table. Alright, Sydney, if I could again call on you to now get the explanation for the timing of the prepared speeches.
For the timing of the prepared speeches, it's kind of similar to the table topics. Again, there's a time limit, and David has told me that he'll be speaking for 6 to 8 minutes. So at 6 minutes, I will turn on the green light. At 7 minutes, I'll turn on the orange light, and at 8 minutes, when his time is almost done, I'll turn on the red light.
Thank you. I would like to call on the first evaluator for today, Craig Larkham, to explain the objectives of David Odie's speech.
Thank you. David today is, as he said before, going to give a presentation that will be more clearly explained in his introduction, but his objectives are, is his attention getter effective? Do we seem engaged when he gives that? And then does his opening establish his credibility to give the presentation that he's going to give? And do we get it? Are we
believing from these openings and his expectations that he set, are we going to get our money's worth from attending? Are we going to get our value out of listening and attending to this? And then, as a professional, is he making an excellent presence here in the forum that he has, and establishing great expectations and interest in all of us. And I will report on that with improvement suggestions at the end.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, today David Odie is practicing a presentation he will give next week during his certification training to become a seminar presentator for Skill Path seminars. What you're about to see next will be the opening 7 minutes of a two-day course in project management. David asks you to imagine that you are attending a seminar and forming your initial impression of him as the seminar leader. This is when you'll most likely decide whether you are going to get your money's worth or not. Please welcome David with his presentation titled simply Opening.
It was the fall of the year 2000. I was standing in the parking lot of a Best Western hotel in Reno, Nevada, watching as one by one the members of my team looked away from me, refusing to make eye contact because they were so embarrassed for me. Now, before I continue that story, let's make sure we're all in the right place. Are you all here for the Skill Path seminar on project management? Please raise your hand. Excellent. Are you all planning to be here for both days of it? Excellent. Well, if you've been to anything like this before, you've probably seen instructors get up in the front of the room and begin by giving you a few of their career highlights. I'm going to give you a career lowlight. That's what happened to me in that parking lot in Reno. What happened was one of the most embarrassing and humiliating experiences in my entire professional life. You see, I was managing a project that involved installing specialized communications equipment in a number of client sites around Lake Tahoe. This was about a $500,000 project, which was a big project for the little company I was working for. And that company was based in Littleton, Colorado. So as you might imagine, one of the complicating factors of this project was the need to stage all of the equipment, materials, personnel, and vehicles 1,000 miles from our home base. Now, I had flown out from Reno to meet up with the installers who had driven out, and before we headed up into the Sierra Nevada mountains where we knew we would be racing snow to get this job done, we took inventory. One final inventory before we started. And what do you think we found? We were missing something. A key piece of equipment was going to have to be overnighted from Colorado out to Reno before we could go up into the mountains. And you might be thinking, well, that sounds like a small setback. It's just one piece of equipment, right? That's because you couldn't see what was going on inside my head. To my mind, this was the last straw, because I felt I had such tenuous control over this project to begin with. Have you ever been in a situation where you felt like you were barely in control, and if one more little thing went wrong, you were just going to blow up? Well, that's where I was with that project. You see, I had built this shaky edifice of competence and confidence around managing this project, and now I just knew that I was going to be found out as a fraud, and everybody was going to know that I was incompetent as a project manager. My stress level was through the roof, and I just lost it. Right there in the parking lot, as these installers were getting ready to load up their vehicles, I launched into a long, loud, profane tirade. I can't even remember what I said. Well, actually, I remember a few words of it, but I'm not going to share those with you. What I distinctly remember, however, is the looks on the faces of those men, yes, they happen to all be men, as one by one they broke eye contact and looked away because they couldn't look at me. They were so embarrassed for me. That was 2000. Now fast forward a few years to the beginning of 2007. A company in Toronto has tapped me to manage a 3-year, $12 million training project. We have about 6 weeks to build and equip a distance learning TV studio in Pittsburgh, design the curriculum, train the trainers, and start lining up trainees at what would ultimately be hundreds of locations all over the country. We get the contract in the middle of January, and if we're not up and running by March 1st, we have to pay liquidated damages. You know what that means? It means if we don't meet the deadline, we're having to pay some of the money on the contract back to the vendor, back to the client, rather. Oh, and part of the company's strategy for getting this contract was to put my name in the RFP response, in their proposal. How will you ensure that this project is carried out according to these specifications? We will hire David Odie to manage it. They asked me to name a salary. I gave them a 6-figure number. They paid it. Now, was it stressful meeting that deadline? You bet it was. Especially when a blizzard hit Pittsburgh and we lost an entire day because nobody could get to work. But here's the thing. I never doubted for a minute that we were going to make that deadline. I never doubted that project was under control. I never launched into a rant at anyone. There was no repeat of the rant in Reno. In fact, you might say I found peace in Pittsburgh. Now, what do you suppose made the difference between those two outcomes? Anyone? What do you think?
Your own frame of mind.
My own frame of mind. That was certainly a big part of it, Kieran. Thank you for that. Anyone else?
An excellent Excel spreadsheet.
An excellent Excel spreadsheet. Not so much as you might think. Matt?
Discipline.
Discipline. Good word for today. That was certainly part of it. You all have a glimpse of the change that took place. But let me explain to you what made the difference between 2000 and 2007. After 2000, I went through a personal crisis of confidence over that project. I kept asking myself, what went wrong? How did that go so wrong? How do I keep that from ever happening again? I spent thousands of dollars on professional development. I went through 2 frustrating years of self-discovery before I learned something very basic, before I discovered a basic truth. I had committed one of the most common and one of the worst errors anyone can commit. I had gone into a situation not knowing what I didn't know. You follow me on that? I'm talking about the difference between the known unknowns, the things you know you don't know yet, and the unknown unknowns, the things you don't even know you're supposed to know. You see, when I was managing that Lake Tahoe project, I was so busy displaying my competence, all the things I knew, that I turned a blind eye to the things I didn't know about project management. Now, by 2007, I had had the chance to work with some outstanding project managers. I had seen how they managed to juggle incomplete resources, incomplete information, and conflicting demands, and yet still deliver the required outcome. I had witnessed firsthand the team-building practices of some of the best leaders in my industry. And I was so inspired by what I had learned that I made the decision right then that I was going to change careers when that project ended and go full-time into training and public speaking because I wanted others to be able to benefit from what I'd learned. I wanted my long road to be your shortcut. Now that's why I'm here. Let's talk about why you're here. You're here because you, or someone you work for, made the decision to invest time and money in this project management training. My job is to see to it that you get a good return on your investment. That's why over the next 2 days, you are going to pick up some tools you can use right away on your very next project, both in the planning and in the execution of it. It's why you're going to see how some of the best project managers deal with uncertainty and setbacks. It's why you're going to pick up communication techniques you can use to manage your team and to monitor your progress so that you're never put in the embarrassing situation of having to go to your boss or your client and explain why you were blindsided to know that the project wasn't where you thought it was. Now, I cannot guarantee that you'll find peace in Pittsburgh. But I promise you, if you commit to mastering the material you're going to be exposed to today and tomorrow, that you need never subject yourself to the embarrassment I did during my rant in Reno. Now let's get started. Thank you.
David, that was really a great job. I think that speech highlighted our theme today, continuous improvement, and how your struggles and perils really led to where you are now. I thought you did a great job. Fellow Toastmasters, we've come to the part of the meeting where we vote on the better speaker, but since today there is only one speaker, I will move on to the timer. Sydney, would you please explain the timing of the evaluators? And also give me the time for David's speech.
We got a wonderful speech from David this morning. He went a little bit over his time. He spoke for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. But the evaluation portion, I'm going to time the evaluators, and they have 1 to 2 minutes to do their evaluations. And again, the green light will come on at 1 minute, and the red light will come on at 2 minutes. Or 3 minutes, I apologize.
Thank you, Sydney. Now we move on to the third and very last part of our meeting, evaluation. It will be led by our general evaluator. When our general evaluator attended his first Toastmaster meeting in 1991, his U-Haul was still hooked up to his car. This means he joined the Great Falls Toastmasters even before he found an apartment. Please welcome our general evaluator, distinguished Toastmaster, Rich Brenner.
Some people believe that the evaluation part of the meeting is the most important part, and it certainly is the way we continuously improve. It's not about being the best, it's about being better than you were yesterday. Whether we are role players in the meeting or speakers. I'm going to introduce our first evaluator. Evaluating our first and only speaker is Craig Larkham.
Thank you, General Evaluator. I'll have to say this is a new and novel experience for me. This is the first time I've given an evaluation that seems more like a table topics than an evaluation, because someone talked about there not being very fast. My brain doesn't think really fast, and so David gives his great closing, and now here I'm up here. So what can I say? I'll go through his objectives. Were you people paying attention to David when he gave his speech? Looking around the room, everybody was rapt on David. What is he going to talk about? His stage presence up here, just absolutely outstanding, David. Really appreciate that. Did his opening give you an idea as prospective project managers that you should attend the seminars that he's going to lead? Yep. I wish I was there. I wish some of the projects I had the unfortunate experience leading had benefited from David's expertise. Do we have high expectations based on the presentation that he gave? I'd have to say so. It sounds like very, very important and very valuable. Our employers or ourselves, if we were paying for it, would really get our money's worth from this. And does he come across as a professional? Absolutely. The word selections, your delivery, absolutely superb, David. I really, really enjoyed your mentioning of examples of learning. A couple of suggestions that I would give on there is you went to the process of moving the lectern and trying to give yourself more space, and then you didn't use it. You stayed basically within a 1 footstep. So I think maybe you can use some more of your movements to do that. And then the other suggestion, which I think this is the second time I've heard this presentation, and I really like the improvements that you've done on it, David. One thing that I would do though maybe is shorten a little bit of your introductory portion on the meltdown in Reno, so that when you get to why and what we're going to get, maybe just a teaser or two of some of the things you learned from those project managers during your 2 years of reinvesting in yourself, so that we've got some of the examples that we might play, because I could see you were getting rushed towards the end like I am towards the amber light here, and that portion compressed some of that follow-on hook where you're really setting in our minds why we're going to want to attend the rest of your seminar. So absolutely outstanding job though, David. Wish I was going there next week to do that. So thank you.
Thank you, Craig. And we'll continue our evaluations from our evaluation team. Up next, Pat Terry.
Yes, Mr. General Evaluator. Not a lot of comments today, and I just got nervous ringing that bell because it's so loud. Cheryl had 1 ah. Sydney 3 that I caught. Tim, you didn't have an ah, but you had a so. You extended your sentences with so. We do that a lot in our club. As for grammar, Rich, the word ain't, and you had fit. You had a double word, fit. Tim, you had being. You left off the G when you were saying being. And David also had a very in there. And one thing I want to comment on is I don't think I've ever had a word of the day that got used so frequently, so often today. Everybody used it several times. That's my report, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you. May we have a timer's report from for our evaluators.
Well, with our 2 evaluators today, Craig started us off, and he evaluated David for 2 minutes and 55 seconds, and Pat, our WAG master, spoke for 41 seconds.
Thank you. And now is the time for me to say some wise words about how well the meeting went and how we fulfilled each of our roles. I look around and I am in awe of the experience of Toastmasters that's in this room. How long have you been a Toastmaster, Jane Rogers?
I've been a Toastmaster for 10 years.
Thank you.
11 years.
Kieran, how long have you been?
I've been a Toastmaster for 1.5 years.
Thank you. Corky?
About 10 years.
10 years. Nick?
12 years.
12 years. Randall Knowles?
More than 30.
More than 30. There is a wealth of talent and experience in this room on how to work a Toastmasters meeting, and you saw a great example of experienced Toastmasters working the program. And if you take a look at the mission of the club, I'd like you to all say that mission with me one more time. Ready? Matt, lead us through.
We provide a supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. Hoo-ah!
Awesome.
It's enough to send the bells ringing.
And the theme, that's the theme of continuous improvement that permeates every meeting in Toastmasters. And I am proud to be a member of Toastmasters. I thank you for a great meeting today. I now return control to our Toastmaster, Samantha.
Well, everyone, I think this has been an overall fantastic meeting. Just from being here today, we're all participating in continuous improvement. One of my favorite quotes on this topic comes from Janice Patterson. And she says, "There's no such thing as perfect or complete, only continuous improvement." At this time, I would like to ask our guests if they have any comments.
It's been a delight for me to be here today and listen to Samantha as the Toastmaster, because Samantha started her speaking career in a 4-H homeschool speech program. Proud to have had the opportunity to work with you, Samantha. It's great to see you continuing this experience.
Other guests?
I'd like to thank Dr. Breiner for inviting me to come today. It's always so much fun to learn from you all. And Dave, I appreciated your speech and from all of you. So thank you.
Well, I wasn't going to speak, but Dr. Briner kind of made that face at me. It was interesting being at this Toastmasters meeting, which it always is. The speech was very informative. I too wish I were able to go to Philadelphia and hear the whole seminar. Thank you for letting me sit in on your Toastmasters meeting. And I know, Rich, you would like me to join. Someday, when I can get out of bed earlier, I might take you up on it. Thank you.
All right, well, if that's all the comments we have, thank you all for coming. This meeting is now adjourned.
Yeah, I didn't know if I was going to make it or not.
Chance,